Doc Norton once tweeted, "If you hire the best and a year later they are not meeting expectations, wouldn't you wonder what did we do to them?" The question, what motivates an individual to perform their best, has been asked since the days of scientific management, and the answer has evolved over many years. The applications of research in this area spans from the fields of education to game designing, and it is needless to say that an organization that has motivated people has better products and services and much happier shareholders. So, to discuss this further, joining me today is Priya Kher. She is the director of Collective Quest, a psychologist and an executive coach who has been supporting organizations to develop their people capabilities since more than 20 years. So, welcome everyone as we deep dive into the wonderful world of a motivated workforce. I am your host Vishal Prasad, and this is Enterprise Joy, educating organizations to be awesome. And welcome, Priya. How have you been doing during this pandemic?
Thanks so much, Vishal, and thanks for having me on this.
My pleasure.
I've been good. I think we've all been managing quite effectively after that initial first few weeks of being completely thrown off our game. So, yeah, I've been good, and work has been good too.
Right. How are you managing your setup right now? Considering that you do a lot of executive coaching and training, how does it get managed with this new setup?
Yes, initially it was that first thought was, what do I do now that we are not, able to be face to face with anyone? But I think there's a very quick transition to converting all our training to virtualized sessions. The coaching has moved to virtual sessions. One of the things we try and do is make sure that we, as far as possible, have this face-to-face connect the way you and I connected right now. So, with videos on does make a lot of difference. And we also found that actually, I think one of the things I have been most amazed by is how resilient everyone has been in their own ways, how everyone has, kind of risen to this challenge, adapted so rapidly, things that we just talked about earlier, learning agility, mental agility. We've just put it into action and we are seeing it from everyone. So the clients, participants have all been game to go with the virtual sessions. We've been able to recreate and still make it interactive. We've also created a digital learning platform.
Nice.
So in these 2 months, that was also something that I had, like you said in your post, I had parked on the side and said, this is something that I will do someday when I have time. And so over these 2 months, my team has been really creative, and we have now our own digital learning platform. So
nice. So there was this post on WhatsApp recently, right? What led to the digital transformation of your organization? Was it the leadership, the people, or the pandemic? And most of the people said pandemic.
Yeah, the pandemic. Yeah.
Which one do you prefer, though? Doing things online or doing things in person? And I ask this only because I know a few people who are like really, really happy with this setup. I'm not one of them, but I do know people who are. How do you take it? Do you prefer this one or like the old ways? I'm calling it the old ways.
Yeah, it seems like the old ways. It seems like it's going to be a long time before it even comes back, if it does at all.
Yeah.
I think there are pros and cons. I'm quite comfortable working in my own space and working from home, immersing myself in my learning. So I don't miss getting out for that. But definitely, when I am in the training sessions, I miss a little bit of that one-on-one connect. That when you start having some observation of someone, you want to have a conversation one-on-one. You want to help someone deepen some insight. Those are the things I'm missing. But on the brighter side, I was pleased to find that it was far more effective than I thought it would be. Because we were able to be creative and find ways to still have breakout rooms, group discussions, activities. but I miss that one-on-one conversations to help someone
Yeah.
just get a little bit more out of the session.
I mean, so you were saying, right, that people basically, I found that people have become a little less rude with a lot of things. So they kind of empathize a lot more now because they know that the
Yes.
kind of situation that we are going through, and
Yeah. Yeah.
that transition has been uh,
Yeah.
pretty new for me in a lot of cases. So
Yeah.
not to say that all of my clients are rude, but
Yeah.
then there are certain times when you have had interactions with certain people which are now very
Yeah.
different, and those kind
Yeah.
of things are like yeah, it's a nice refreshing kind of a taste.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting you say that. We used to say that a common ground is the first thing you try and establish in order to have effective relationships.
Oh yeah.
And I think this has just brought that to us. You're just all tied together with this common experience, common challenge. Yeah.
Oh. But yeah, so keeping that in mind, since you mentioned that yeah, there's a lot of things that you're not missing with, let's say, the learning and everything. So
Mm-hmm.
with the theme today, the first question I have, excuse me, is uh, what motivates you as an individual? And it'll be nice if you can like share one of your stories which have been driven because of an intrinsic motivation. That'll be a nice place to start.
Yeah, I like that you have. I like that you say intrinsic motivation as a given, because
Okay.
yes, it's definitely intrinsic motivation, and that's a really nice question to start with. Um, I think what I've found over the years is a common theme I can say of what motivates me is learning,
Hmm.
and uh, learning. I mean, learning has become the medium, but learning as in helping people use their learning to gain more insight, either into themselves or something around them, and do something better.
Hmm.
I think what really drives me and what gives me my kick out of my work, energizes me, is when I find that I've been able to create some learning experience that made a difference um, for for the people that I conducted it for.
Hmm.
And yeah, at the same time, that drives me to learn more myself. I enjoy that a lot.
Hmm.
But I think it's driven by the fact that if I can use my learning to create some kind of insight, self awareness, some shift, help people make a difference.
Hmm.
In terms of stories, I think every now and then I have those experiences that kind of validate and give you that sense of satisfaction with the work you do. Um, when I have so for almost 7 years of my initial career, I was a professor at SMHRD, Symbiosis
Hmm.
Center for Management. So I taught organizational behavior to a bunch of young people who were probably wondering, oh, here's another subject, and we have to find out about psychology. And a lot of them were engineers by background. Um, but it's always really gratifying when once in a while I'll get either a message or someone will post on LinkedIn that we learned OB in our college years and now I see the relevance, or I still remember this concept that I'm using now. uh, Even in training, every now and then you come across a participant who's been part of a training program, and you meet them somewhere in the corridor in the company and they say, that one thing that I worked on and I found it made a difference and now I'm doing this better. And that's
Absolutely.
my sense of uh, yeah, this is why I do what I do.
I mean, I remember OB as well. So I don't remember everything that I learned in college. I do remember a few things like theory X, theory Y. I remember that. I also remember type A
Yeah.
and type B, but I'm pretty sure I'll make some mistakes when I speak about those things. But yeah, since you mentioned that you find people sometimes in the corridor and they'll say that hey, they learned something and that's refreshing.
Mhm.
That's actually one of my stories as well. So the story of actually coming up with this podcast comes from there, and
Yeah.
I did blog about it last week or 2 weeks back. So
Yeah.
the thing with Enterprise Joy is I've had this domain for some time now, and
Mhm.
the intention always was that hey, I'll do something with it, and the idea was
Mhm.
always about education. uh, and then last year when you conducted a training for us, and I attended that. You made us do
Hmm.
the Holland Codes activity, the card sorting activity, which was around
Yeah.
how do you align your strengths with your motivations.
Yes.
And that was the time which was like a game changer for me, because after that activity I did realize what I was missing. So I was like, I became very silent, and I remember you coming and asking me just after lunch as to why am I so silent.
Hmm.
And the only thing that was going in my mind at that time was that uh, there are things that I like doing, like something
Hmm.
that motivates me, but I don't
Yeah.
get to do all of that in the
Hmm.
organization. And that's probably the reason why I was doing professional training at that time, and a year before that.
Hmm.
And it just clicked that, hey, maybe I do this because it motivates me.
Yeah.
And then the idea of going into this teaching mode as much as possible has been on my mind since the past, well, since that training, obviously. And the pandemic just happened. And then the best possible
Hmm.
thing that I could think of was a podcast, because it's one thing that's accessible to everyone, well,
Right.
almost accessible if you're interested in hearing. And it's a
Hmm.
good way for me to teach. So we have Enterprise Joy podcast now, which is just teaching organizations these things which can make the work life of their people a more satisfying experience. So yeah, my story actually aligns to you. I should say thank you. That's
That's an amazing story. Yeah.
yeah.
And thanks for sharing that. And I remember reading your post on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, and then
Mhm.
replying to you,
Yeah.
because again that aligns with what motivates me, is to say, hey, that made a difference to you. And I do remember that so clearly, because when everyone kind of got up for the break, you were still sort of sitting at your table, and you had this
I'm
look
looking
of,
at my cards.
you know, yeah, you were just paused in front of those cards, and you were just glancing down. And I remember coming up to you to say, so, you're in deep thought. And then you shared that, and you said, yeah, I'm discovering that what motivates me is not what I'm spending a lot of time on.
Yeah.
And I think it's super that you were able to take that insight so deeply and make that shift,
Yeah.
and uh, if this is the outcome of that, then that's even more
This is
gratifying.
for
That's
sure the
wonderful.
outcome of that. So, and that's why I should thank you for
Amazing.
being here. And I do remember. So that night when I came back and I mailed you to send me the details of the activities, and then you send me the details of
Yeah.
Holland codes and the Riasec and
Yeah.
everything. But when I
Yeah.
did that activity the second time, I took like real examples that fit my context,
Hmm.
and the answer was still the same. And I was like, okay, I've done this twice. Maybe there is something to it.
There's
And
something.
so yeah, that
Yeah.
was amazing. But yeah, so since we are on this topic, why don't you like, just for our listeners, explain a little bit about what Holland codes are?
Yeah. Sure. Um, so it's something that came up as a theory of personality somewhere in the 1970s. John Holland, the gentleman, the psychologist, actually credited with this in the 1970s, created this model saying that there are six types of preferences that we have, and R uh, RIASEC is often the short form that we use for that. RASIC
Mm,
is
Tracy.
the way we refer to it. And he said that there are people are for realistic. Realistic, as in the people who are practical, hands-on. They have interests and preferences for things like, mm, working manually on something, being outdoors, working with mechanical things. Um, Investigative. So I, for investigative, um, these are the people who are the thinkers.
Mhm.
Some things like going deep into why things work the way they do, scientific inquiry, being more analytical. That's what drives them. The A is artistic. These are the creative people. So the creative people with interest in anything which is innovative, creative. It can be actual art. It can be being able to use design to create a new product. That's what drives them. Um, S is for social. These
Mhm.
are the helpers. So social, because what inspires them, what drives them, is being able to work with other people in a way that is supportive, that is helpful. You know, counseling, helping people grow. Those are the things that are their motivators. E is for enterprising.
Mhm.
These are the persuasive people. What drives them is to be able to influence, persuade, lead,
Mhm.
be able to take people in a certain direction in the way they want to. And the C is for conventional.
Mhm.
Conventional are people who are, you can say, organizers. You know, they are motivated by being able to put things into place, systems, processes, um, putting things in order. That's what drives them. So
Mhm.
when he created it as a sort of a model of personality, it also linked very well with career guidance, career development. So it's often called, the theory of career types, because it gives us an idea if these are my interests, you can link them to the kinds of professions or careers we can go into. Um, and
Mhm.
so this Holland's model is very well used for helping people gain insight into matching their interests with where they should be spending a lot of time in their work.
Mhm.
Um, I think the card sort activity that we created, of course, so we use this as a foundation,
Mhm.
and we created statements around each one of these, and I'm sure you remember them. So there's a whole pack of
Yeah,
cards
yeah,
each person got, uh, but we made you sort them on two sets of parameters, and that actually
yeah.
gives you those quadrants that are very meaningful.
Mhm.
So knowing what interests me is one part. So you I think initially you sort them out by saying, this is what I really enjoy, this is what I'm okay with, this is what I prefer not to spend my time on. So in those
Mhm.
ranges you sort out the cards. But then you also look at how competent am I on each one of them. So
Mhm.
you further sorted out your cards, if you can say like a vertical X and then a Y, you sorted them
Yeah.
out as what am I very competent at, what am I, proficient or learning, and where do I lack the skills.
Mhm.
And I think the real aha for people is when you are able to see your cards laid out in that format, and then you begin to see four clear blocks. So the first block that is most meaningful is, here are the things that I really enjoy and I'm very good at.
Mhm.
And if ideally we find a match there, those are our motivators.
Right.
Yeah, since our topic is on motivation, and this is how Holland
Yeah.
ties in very very nicely with knowing, um, these are my motivators, or maybe a lack of this is what gives me dissatisfaction also.
Mhm.
Um, if I can identify what I really enjoy, but maybe I lack the skills, that still gives me some idea of these are my development areas.
Mhm.
Because I really enjoy it. Maybe I lack the skills. This is what I want to learn more. I want to be able to do more of it. And then if I learn it, it would move into the motivators quadrant.
Mhm.
In the third quadrant would be what we would call burnout skills.
Mhm.
These are our clues of why I'm
Yeah.
restless in a job, or maybe even want to leave, or I'm looking for change, because here is where I am very good at it, but I prefer not to use those skills. I don't
Yeah.
enjoy it at all. Yeah, and I can relate that very clearly with some of the decisions I've made in my own career, where at some point I said, okay, this is where I need a shift, because I'm doing this very well, but it doesn't drive me. And then the fourth final quadrant is unimportant. I'm neither good at it, I lack the skills, and nor do I enjoy it. So we
Mhm.
can disregard cards that come into that. And that's how we used Hollands to create that card sort.
Right. I mean, the burnout thing I can completely relate to. I have been there, and yeah, it's
Yeah,
not a nice situation to be in. But the
right.
amazing thing about this exercise was, so whenever we speak about strengths and weaknesses, as in at least
Mm-hmm.
when I've spoken in the past, and
Mm-hmm.
if I'm speaking with someone, the usual first point is that, hey, you're good at this, or this is your strength, but here is the other thing that's your weakness, and you're supposed to still do that. So why don't you
Mm-hmm.
work on it so that your weakness improves, as in weakness becomes a strength? But that's not the thing. The thing that you made us do was that you have your strengths, and there's these few things that you really enjoy doing, so you build on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
again the second thing that was new for me, because here I was not hearing that, hey, you should like work on your weakness. It was to say that you should do more of your strengths. And at least I haven't seen a lot of that happening in a lot of my previous organizations and a lot of the teams I've worked with. So that was itself new for me. And yeah, that exercise was a game changer for me. I can still say that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the
I mean,
go ahead.
I was saying that approach to trying to find that sweet spot for ourselves in our work, if we are aware of that, or as closely as possible, we are able to match that, um, uh, is what would create meaningful work or allow us to be more motivated. If we could find those behaviors that are I enjoy and I'm good at, that would be the ideal.
That'll be the ultimate motivation.
Yeah. Yeah.
But do these change over time? Or are these like fixed for individuals?
I think they do change over time. So while it was created as almost like a personality theory that we are that type, or those are the things that we are interested in, um, possibly being overdoing something. So you could convert a strength into a burnout area if you were overdoing something that you are good at, and then you begin to find that it loses its ability to bring joy. You are no longer that interested in it,
right?
And yet you are spending most of your time in it. So in that way, I think it shifts. I think our preferences don't shift that drastically, but how much I enjoy it would depend on what my environment is bringing to me.
Right.
So with the burnout,
your personalities will more or less be the same, but your usage may decide how motivated you are.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, but the RASIC thing. So I do know that it's used extensively by the U.S. Department of Labor. It's used. I mean, at least there is a page on the careers website of the New Zealand government, and I know that there is a certain level of usage of RASIC. What I do want to understand is in your experience, like, and keeping my bias aside, because I was affected by this in a big way. But in your experience, how well have you seen this work with individuals?
I think it's a good starting point for people who want to get more clarity on where they need to focus their interests or their attention rather in their career. It's a very popular model. It's easy to understand, and then it's been adapted a lot. So it's a popular model, but especially for young people who are starting out their careers to have more insight into choosing majors or deciding what kind of area they need to go into. I think it's a very useful model. But just going by that is not enough. Being able to understand again, if it's my strength or it's my area of interest, how much time am I spending on it, and seeing that link between enjoyment and skill, which is what that motivator area is also important. One of the tools that I prefer, because it's quite comprehensive, is the strong interest inventory. The strong interest inventory is something that was adapted using the Holland's model, but it combines an assessment of your interests, so a lot of questions on your interests, mapped to the Holland 6 codes, and then gives you some kind of indication of what careers you are best suited for. So interest, ability, and career match would be an effective way to use this.
And do universities usually use this, or can they?
They use some form of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
universities use it. College guidance kind of counselors use it. Some form of it, but it's one of the most popular ones using Holland. There are a lot of online assessments you can do. I mean, you can go online and take the basic self-assessment for yourself, but so I don't know how valid or reliable they are.
No, I do have one. So the U.S. Department of Labor, they have their website on which they have this profiler that you can create for yourself. So I tried it out.
Okay.
I haven't seen the results. But yeah, for the listeners, I will leave out a link in the description so you can also try it out. So they have their own way of going through 28 questions, if I'm not wrong, and then they basically give you where do you fit in the RASIC, and
Okay.
then the website actually has a lot of job listings. So I think that's a way for them to link the two.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Hmm.
so the idea of knowing your personality and linking yourself with a similar kind of a career will motivate you more towards it. That's the idea that goes around it, right?
Right. That's the idea. If I can combine what I am good at or my
Mm-hmm.
area of interest is, if I can combine both of that. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you an example. If I were to take a simple basic assessment, I might come out high on conventional,
Mm-hmm.
putting things in order, organizing, administrative processes, systems. I might score high on that,
Mm-hmm.
but I also need a tool that gives me an understanding of how much do I enjoy it. That's my
Right.
burnout skill.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I discovered over time is my burnout skill. So I cannot be in a job where I am solely doing that, and or that's the primary area, um, because that's not something very joyful for me. So that
Right.
people need to be able to make sure that they not only understand what they're good at, but do they enjoy it.
Yeah. So not only what they are good at, but they enjoy as well. Let's
Yeah.
keep that as a mantra for this segment, and we take a short break. And then when we come back, we discuss a bit more about motivating your workforce. Right?
Okay. Thanks,
Cool. And
Rishabh.
listeners, stay tuned. If you like what you're hearing, then do subscribe to this podcast for more of Enterprise Joy. You can get a complete list of platforms where this podcast is available on anchor.fm/enterprisejoy or on our website enterprisejoy.com. Folks who prefer a more visual content can save the Enterprise Joy podcast playlist on YouTube. And you can also support this podcast by becoming a patron on patreon.com/enterprisejoy. We are happy to bring great content for you that can help you and your organization be more awesome. Here's more of Enterprise Joy coming your way. Okay, welcome back. I'm in conversation with Priya Kher, and we have been discussing about motivations. And to that, Priya, I do have a very basic question for you. And I kind of know the
Mm-hmm.
answer for this, but I would like to know the psychologist's opinion about how this works. Okay. So
Sure.
I know a little bit about the Maslow's hierarchy. So
Mm-hmm.
just for my reference, there are 5 levels to the hierarchy. The first one starts off with the physiological needs. The second is safety needs. Then you have a sense of belongingness and love needs. Then you have the esteem needs, and finally the self-actualization needs.
Right.
And the question I have is, uh, the first 2 levels, which more or less we can club as the basic needs, so up till the
Mm-hmm.
safety,
Mm-hmm.
uh, more or less can be covered by money itself. So as long as money is in place, I can get all of that. So if I need security, I have a roof on my head and I'm safe, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Why can't money be the sole motivation for anything with your job or your life?
Yeah. Yeah. Probably a question that psychologists have been trying to answer for the last 80 years or so. Um, the relationship between compensation, money, performance, motivation is quite complex. One thing that has been found over and over by researchers is that money is not the main motivator.
Hmm.
Or let me put it like that: money is not the sole motivator. Uh, and again, when we talk about motivation, what are we saying? We're saying um, people's very focused ability to work towards a certain goal, uh, put in hard work, uh, continue striving towards that even when there are obstacles. These
Hmm.
are all the elements of motivation. So why do we do that? When are the times that we are able to do that to our best ability? Um, it's not only when we are rewarded with money. That's what research has found.
Hmm.
In terms of, by saying that the relationship but is quite complex, it's that the importance of money in the rank of what matters to me for me to work in a motivated way. that seems to shift depending on the situation as well as personal characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
So individual personalities, individual characteristics in, determine how important money is or what money means to me, as well as the situation. So, I mean, if I take an example of what we're going through currently with this pandemic, uh, when people might be facing pay cuts or maybe even losing their job, or at least in fear of losing their job,
Mm-hmm.
in these kind of situations, and research has found over the last 40, 50 years, in similar times, when there is some threat to my standard of living or my job security, then the ranking of or the importance of money as a motivator does go up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the sole motivator. So far more important are intrinsic motivation factors. And that's what is a consensus. It could be many different things. Again, one size doesn't fit all. So it could be interesting work, meaningful work. You and I shared a little bit about what drives us and what we discovered about our own motivators. So interesting, meaningful work is definitely an important one. Appreciation. For some people, that's a key motivator. Um, Growth, just my general growth, learning, or my growth in the organization. These are some of the core motivators that have been found to be very important.
So I do know that there's this theory with Dan Pink, right? So the drive factor,
Yeah.
and the way he puts it is, if you take the subject of money off the table, as in you pay your people just at least enough so that they are not thinking about money anymore,
Exactly.
and then everything is pure creativity, if you want to put it that way. So it then depends on the purpose, the mastery, and the autonomy that individuals have. And to be very honest, I have seen a lot of organizations moving towards this route of purpose, at least. Even with Simon Sinek's work of Start with Why and the Golden Circle and everything that came up, there were loads of organizations that adopted it. And the purpose of why for organizations have more or less become clear.
Yeah.
The individuals, however, may not be in the same space, right? So how do individuals find their own why or their own purpose? Is that something that's equally important for them to like be motivated for themselves, or is it just enough if they have it for the organization?
I think the two are related, because I mean, when the organization identifies its why, there are people who are attracted to the organization because it somehow resonates for them. You know, in your own company, where the culture of the organization is so important, and you find a connect between new joinees and what is their why. People are able to be influenced by that. I think an organization knowing its why is important, but an organization knowing its individual's why is also very critical when we start beginning to understand what an organization needs to do to motivate its workforce.
Right.
So helping people identify what that purpose is for them, and being able to understand it, even if individuals know it, does the organization has the organization tried to understand that?
So the organization helping the individuals to identify their why. So since we are discussing about the purpose, and we say that money is not the sole motivator, but then how do organizations identify the whys of individuals, something that motivates them? How does that work out?
Yeah. I think for organizations, it's really critical for them to be able to recognize that, like I said earlier, one size doesn't fit all. Even if we begin to recognize that money is not the main motivator, and I think most organizations do understand that now, which is the shift that we've had over the last 80, 90 years. An organization needs to recognize that individuals are so unique in what drives them that they need to devise ways to be able to identify that. It can be simple things like running an organizational survey or having focus groups to get to the heart of what do our people value?
Mhm.
And again, we would find themes in that, and we've run a lot of these kind of exercises when we do engagement surveys or value propositions for companies. What do our people value, and what are some of the core themes coming out there?
Mhm.
And those give us clues to understand that this is the kind of environment that we need to create to have a motivated workforce.
Right.
But for whether you are leading a team or you're a manager or even as an organization, what motivates me, I cannot assume that the same thing motivates you.
Motivate someone else. True.
Yeah.
So the other two aspects of drive also talks about the autonomy and mastery. And especially with mastery, so I've had this example for quite some time in my head.
Hmm. Hmm.
We always say that people want to grow. However, I have met a few individuals, at least in the past,
Hmm.
and when we have spoken about things that what do you want to do next, or what do you want to learn new, or something from that aspect,
Hmm.
a common answer has been, I think I'll just live with whatever I know as of now. Uh,
Hmm.
and yeah, that's good enough for me. I'll come, I'll do my job, and I'll go back home. So
Hmm.
the thing that I sometimes fail to understand is
Hmm.
is that an aversion to mastery, or is that a motivation to actually not do something? And how does that relate to? Because for
Hmm.
me seems like a state of nirvana and self-satisfaction. Like I'm good with where I am, and I don't need any more
Correct.
growth or mastery. And yeah, if you are there, it's really good for you, but it
Hmm.
doesn't really fit
Hmm.
very well in my head.
Hmm.
How does that work?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really interesting question. Uh, and I think, again, it's a question of uh, defining mastery differently.
Mhm.
Each individual possibly defines mastery differently. So maybe for you, you are thinking mastery is maybe at your craft or learning, or in some way putting in that effort to know more. And then when you
Mhm.
see someone who says, well, I'm okay with what I know and I'm happy to just do my job adequately and head home, we don't know what they're heading home to and what they're driven by there and what mastery
Yeah.
they're developing in a different area. So it may not be knowledge, or it may not be being a master of my craft.
Mhm.
And again, this is insight that the same thing that motivates one individual need not motivate the other. It's like the example I used to give when I worked with young students at the initial start of my career as a counselor, and I would hear a parent or a teacher saying this child is just not motivated,
Mhm.
you know, and I would always think that and in fact share with them that nobody lacks motivation. It's just that they're motivated for something different.
Right.
Uh, so this child is not studying, but he's spending hours playing his drums, or he's spending hours reading Harry Potter. He's
Which is
motivated, or
good
she's
enough.
motivated.
You know,
She's motivated for something different.
you're gonna make so many Harry Potter fans happy with that statement. You know that. I know like
Yeah.
6 of them right now. So actually, so one of
Yeah.
them is a good friend of mine now, Ved. He
Hmm.
works with me,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
I can kind of relate to what you're saying, because
Hmm.
he is an well, because of the pandemic, I have not been able to eat his food yet. But he's like this master chef. So every weekend he would cook something in the way how
Hmm.
they'll present it in restaurants and five-star hotels, and he puts it up on Facebook
Awesome.
and everything. And it really looks amazing. But yeah, I can relate to you that maybe their motivation is different. Yeah, by the way,
Yeah.
Ved, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying that you're bad at your job. I'm just saying that you are motivated by being a chef as well. But yeah, I can relate to that. But so there was a friend of mine in my previous organization, and he
Hmm.
once sent me like an image on WhatsApp, which I
Hmm.
still use nowadays for certain occasions. So it has a chimp who's resting, and the tagline says, "Chilling: the art of doing nothing without getting bored." And that's can that be motivation as well? Yeah, I know it's a very weird question. I'm not looking for an answer, but I'm just saying that I do use
Yeah.
that image nowadays quite a lot for many
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
Because actually, with the pandemic, I have observed that people have started working a lot more,
Hmm.
because you're always there in front of your monitors, and you start
Hmm.
off at 10 or something, and then you just continue sitting there till,
Hmm.
I don't know, 6, 7 something. But yeah, I've tried to start pushing people to not work so much. But
Yeah.
I can relate your point with the mastery aspect. Regarding the third one, which is the autonomy,
Hmm.
this one especially, I have found it to be slightly difficult to bring into teams.
Hmm.
And especially if I'm working with certain leaders or managers who have this sense of losing power. So when we speak
Yeah.
about having a self-organized or a self-managed team and
Yeah.
provide the people in the team autonomy to do their work by themselves, as decide how they want to create something when the goal is
Hmm.
presented to them,
Hmm.
there are times when individuals find it difficult to let go of the control.
Yeah.
uh, what I would like to understand from you is, when you coach executives or people in companies and you come across this kind of a situation, how do
Hmm.
you work around it? How do you make them understand the importance of autonomy and self-organization?
Yeah. Um, Again, really relevant, and like you were sharing that with the research that Dan Pink put out in his book Drive, um, being able to recognize the importance of uh, purpose, being able to recognize the importance of mastery and now autonomy are really critical in understanding that money is not the main motivator.
Hmm.
Um, but autonomy also has many layers to being able to use it effectively. As a manager, let's say, I understand that autonomy would motivate the team that uh, I'm giving that empowerment to. There have to be some things in place before that works.
Hmm.
Uh, so, so what's also important to understand is that um, I'll list three things that I think are critical for autonomy to work well.
Hmm.
One is for the individual who's been given that autonomy to recognize the relevance or importance of that task or goal.
Hmm.
So when I'm coaching, let's say managers to build more autonomy in their team, um, it's important that they are setting the context, giving the team the big picture, helping people see the relevance of their work. Uh, so setting that context is especially important. The second is a sense of self-efficacy.
Hmm.
And I relate this to this is foundations in goal setting theory. Just setting a goal and saying go ahead and do it, and you have the full freedom to figure out how you're going to achieve it is not
Hmm.
sufficient.
Right.
Does the person have a belief? Self-efficacy is a belief that yes, I can do it.
Hmm.
You know, and again, here's this intricate relationship between motivation and performance. It's
Right.
not as straightforward. If I'm highly motivated, doesn't mean it will translate into excellent performance.
Hmm.
Do I have the skills for it?
Right.
So the second thing that again leaders often recognize, or team leads recognize, that does the person that I'm giving autonomy to believe that they have the necessary skills and they can do it? Have I
Hmm.
created that sense of self-efficacy, or have I equipped them with the skills? Do they need more training? Is that in place?
Right.
And the third most critical thing is regular feedback.
Absolutely.
So again, autonomy is not letting go and saying, well, come to me when it's over, and then, I'll tell you whether you were on the right track or not.
Hmm.
For people to be able to really thrive when they are empowered, they also need regular feedback. Am I on the
Hmm.
right track? Is this going well? Does something need to change?
Right. Yeah, so in the last episode, we did discuss about the OKR and CFR combination, and that pretty much talks
Yeah,
about the same thing. Like, you have a goal set,
yeah,
but then you have this continuous performance management that has to happen, which comes with
right,
regular feedback and doing a pulse check and stuff like that. Yeah, I agree with that.
absolutely, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, so if money is not the motivator, or if money is off the table, then we have the purpose, we have the mastery, and we have the autonomy.
Right.
Uh, can we then safely say that if these three things are provided,
Hmm.
then the top two big sections of Maslow's hierarchy gets fulfilled? So the psychological needs and the self-actualization, will that get fulfilled if these three things get managed somehow?
Yes, I think they are. You can definitely map them to Maslow's pyramid, and these are in that area of esteem, whether it is esteem from others or it is self-esteem. Um, when I'm able to fulfill the sense of purpose, mastery, and I have the autonomy to achieve it, it would match with that and self-actualization. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, but just as a rider, again, I would say that it's important for the organizations to recognize that what is purpose and what is a sense of mastery can be very, very unique to each individual.
Yeah, cool. So I think it's a good time to take a break on that when we let
Sure.
organizations to think about that a little bit of how they can help their people gain mastery and provide autonomy. But when we return, we discuss about desire profiles and see how that works out with motivations.
Okay. Look
Cool.
forward.
Here's a glimpse for you into the next episode. Since we just discussed autonomy and self organization, on 19th of July, I'll be talking to Sunil Mundra, the author of the book Enterprise Agility. And we'll be discussing the essence of agile organizations and their role in spreading joy for its people. So don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform. And if you have any questions that you would like me to ask Sunil, then become a learner patron on patreon.com/enterprisejoy.
Okay, welcome back with me, Priya Kher, and this is the last segment of motivating your workforce. And before we get into the details, I do want to speak about a couple of topics, Priya. And so I did read about this, the principle of pleasure, a few weeks back, and
Okay.
it kind of talks about uh, why people like the ways people feel happy about certain things. As in, to give you an
Mm-hmm.
example, there are people who like happy endings in movies over sad endings, even if the happy endings are like completely unrealistic for some reason. And then optimism triumphs over pessimism, and that positivity that comes in, that creates some kind of a desire profile. So everyone has this desire profile, and there are like 16 types, as Stephen Rees puts it. But based on
Mm-hmm.
this desire profile, you come up with some way of feeling happy, and that's like your principle of pleasure, if you want to put it. And
Mm-hmm.
I actually wanted to share one of the stories with you, and then get your
Yes.
views about it. So it happened uh, not very recently, but let's say a few years back. And
Mm-hmm.
the way the story goes is, so I was working in this team. I was a BA at the time, and I had a tech lead, and who the two of us were responsible for work of managing the work in the project.
Okay.
And we got this new person in the team, and for some reason, there was a lot of conflict between these two people in the team with
Mm-hmm.
the way of working, with certain outcomes that were desired by both the people. And I kind of saw a few things that did happen. For example, during meetings, I would see that this person, if they would put forth a point, but for some reason the
Mm-hmm.
point got challenged, which is fine because you're having a team conflict and you're brainstorming. But if the point got
Mm-hmm.
challenged, then this person would take a step back, go into their cocoon, and not really follow on with whatever they wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
And the conflicts even went to a point where there were things raised about issues with certain things, whether things are happening the way they wanted or not, and stuff like that. And
Okay.
it really did not affect me so much because I was still an outsider in that conflict. And the
Mm-hmm.
way I would work with both of these people were still pretty good. So I had good working relationships with both of them.
Okay.
But yeah, the two of them didn't get along. But then after a few months, things kind of changed. And the change basically came out of movement. So this person uh, who had all of this feedback about having issues, we kind of
Mm-hmm.
took a long shot, and we said, okay. we need a new lead. Why don't you take up the lead? And then I moved out of the project. I went to another project and someone else replaced me. And then there were these two people, who's the new BA and the new lead, and they came into the project. But then they started running the project and they started providing results. And the results were really, really amazing. When they were able to achieve certain things which I struggled to achieve in like the 2 years that, or 1.5 years that I was in that project. And to an extent where I could now see this individual who was really happy with the job. And this individual was all of that thing where people went into they went into a cocoon when their points were challenged and stuff like that. All of that went away. I could see this new sense of motivation where they were achieving goals, achieving results, managing the team well, taking care of people in the team. All of that happened. The client as well gave a good feedback about them as to they have seen this thing change. And that got me thinking as to what might have changed in all of that. And there are a few concepts that did come to my mind at that time. So one definitely was the extreme ownership, where Jocko says that a leader can make a difference. So it depends on who your leader is. And if the leader is someone who can drive the team, then you will get good results, which I could clearly see. But then the other thing that I did kind of understand was that the desire profile did not really match earlier, in whatever way or whichever reason that might have been. But now the desire profile was pretty much aligned. And it was so well aligned between the lead and the BA who came after me, is that they could work like, so the term that I learned at that time was the work spouse. Okay. So they could work like a work spouse team, and they could really drive and get results that were really amazing. What do you think about what might have happened in this scenario?
That's a really interesting example of how I mean, it sort of reinforces what we talked about earlier, that nobody lacks motivation. They possibly just lack the right environment to meet the needs of what motivates them.
Yeah.
And you see this shift in the way they, change the way they work and the impact it's having. Work spouse is a really interesting term. I mean, I'm really curious about the origin of that, because it's sort of it gives you an idea that relationships between spouses are so complementary and run so smoothly, which I'm wondering who came up with that. But yeah, I think it's a really interesting, and it's wonderful that it's working so well now. Just being able to make a shift in what this person was getting out of their work. So when you're talking about desire profiles, that's one way of looking at it. What a lot of these, we talked about Maslow, we talked about even Holland's model. They're sort of like the content theories of motivation. The what drives me? What is it that I need to put in that intensity and that persistence in my effort? Yeah. And that's possibly what changed for this individual. Maybe they were in an environment where the ideas were not being accepted, or it was not fitting. I'm making some assumptions here. Maybe it didn't suit their personality to stand up and challenge, get into those challenging conversations, to insist upon their view. So they took a step back, which is perceived by others as they've gone back into their cocoon. That possibly in their mind thought that, my idea is not valued over here, or there's no point sharing it. And now you've put the same individual in a situation where they can influence. They can share their ideas, or even drive the team with their ideas. They are heard. Yeah. And so you see how a person can thrive if the environment is conducive to meeting their needs.
So I mean,
that's what it sounds like to me.
For me, it worked out in this situation because there was a change in the team. I wouldn't suggest organization to do that all the time. I mean, that shouldn't
Yeah,
be
yeah,
the way
yeah,
to bring in
yeah, yeah,
motivation. But then,
yeah.
still to say that that might still work. That may still be one of the ways of motivating someone to bring the results that they can.
Yeah, but I think your story also highlights something that again is really critical for us to remember, both as either people leading teams or as an entire organization,
Hmm.
is to not make assumptions about what motivates an individual.
Hmm.
Not make assumptions that the same thing that motivates me motivates another individual.
Right.
Um, to explore more or have avenues for people to be able to share what they value,
Hmm.
whether it is in one-on-one conversations when you are leading a team, or it is at an organizational level surveys to understand what you value. Um,
Hmm.
it's sort of a word of caution also, the story, to say that you could have gone with that assumption, oh, this person is not very effective.
Yeah.
If you hadn't had this switch, you wouldn't have seen the transformation.
Hmm.
So it's also sort of a tale of caution to say, have we explored and asked enough to be really clear in what you value, and then are we helping create that environment that meets those needs?
Hmm. Yeah, I think at some level this also goes down to, we kind of trusted the individual anyway. I mean, we trusted
Yeah,
if this
yeah.
individual is in the organization and we have seen something
Hmm.
in them because of which they are in the organization, then yeah,
Hmm.
maybe the situation is not right and it can change. And I think that was
Right.
the long shot that we took, and it turned
Yeah,
out to be great. So yeah,
yeah.
trust, maybe
So
a little bit of experimentation. I don't know, but yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And the trust was well founded. So it could be a sense of achievement, it could be autonomy, that are some of the key motivators for this individual. And
Hmm.
then you help create that environment. Then you see the impact when we are in that in a work situation that meets our needs, how we are all capable of thriving.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we have kind of reached the end of our show. But before we go, I would like to know a little bit of your parting thoughts for organizations. What will be your key message for organizations as to what can they do in order to motivate their workforce or create this amazing team that can do wonders? What will
Yeah.
your take on this be?
Uh, I think some of the things that you have shared during this podcast are really reminders for organizations that, one, money is not the sole motivator.
Hmm.
Just that carrot stick approach that used to be okay in the 1940s or even 50s
Hmm.
um, is not what drives individuals. It's a good reminder for managers, leads to recognize that. Um, so money not being the main motivator, what is it that then does create that sense? And again, I want to repeat, when we're talking about motivation, it is our ability to work in a goal directed way. But two key important factors for motivation for us to check the boxes and say yes, that's motivation, is intensity and persistence. So how
Hmm.
hard we work towards that goal, and how we don't give up even in the face of challenges towards that goal.
Right.
Uh, so for organizations to begin to recognize that what is it that motivates individuals can be quite uh, personal, can be dependent on both the individual as well as the situation. So how do we, to the best of our ability, understand that what,
Hmm.
or in Simon Sinek's way, the why?
Why?
Have we made assumptions, or have we really explored and asked? And
Hmm.
if we can hit the nail on the head and identify maybe a few key factors that are common amongst our workforce
Hmm.
uh, of what is valued, then how do we go about building that environment, meeting those needs, so that we can have that driven, motivated workforce?
Wow, amazing. Okay, with that, thank you very much for being here. To be very honest, every time I speak with you, I learn something new. My key takeaway for this one was for sure the mastery point that we discussed. Uh, Very
Yeah,
honestly, yeah, maybe the mastery just lies elsewhere, but it for sure lies somewhere. Yeah, that I think every time I speak, I will learn something new anyway. So thank you very much for being a part of this episode. It was really, really nice having you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vishal, for having me. And I want to share from my side that, the learning is two-way. One, your blog, your post on LinkedIn several weeks ago for me was what I shared earlier. My source of motivation comes from knowing that something made a difference. And the other is just having this conversation with you, some of the really insightful questions you had, or some interesting take on things you had, gave me food for thought too. So I think I learned a little bit more about things that I might be very familiar with, but just in the way you asked the question, it helps me too. So I learn from you too.
To relearn. Yes.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Thanks
and
so
you
much
stay
for
safe.
this.
That was Priya Kher, and every time I speak with her, there's always something new to learn. Hope this episode was just as educational for you as it was for me. For more of Enterprise Joy, subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and on YouTube so you don't miss any episode. Patrons on patreon.com/enterprisejoy get some exclusive benefits, so do check out what we have to offer. The details of our upcoming episodes can be found on our website, enterprisejoy.com, and you can send your feedback and comments to vishal@enterprisejoy.com so our podcast can continuously improve. So until next time, thank you for listening to this podcast. Take care and stay safe.